Kurdish Victims Fund Public Report 8. The Kurdish Victims Fund is receiving questions from Kurds and friends and governments around the world about its criminal conspiracy court case in United States federal court just up the street from the White House. The case is against the Kurdistan Regional Government, Masoud Barzani, Masroor Barzani, Waisi Barzani, and their family and comrades. So, in this report, we will do our best to answer more of your questions. Question: does this case endanger the Kurdistan relationship with the United States of America? Answer: the exposure of the crimes of the Barzani continuing criminal enterprise may quickly lead to drastic U.S. policy changes. The public exposure from a trial has real-world implications. Officials of the United States government say that it is committed to the Kurdish people, but the United States is not committed to a corrupt regime. Because of the growing exposure resulting from this case, the United States government is waking up and becoming attuned to the rotten truth that Kurdistan is reeling from catastrophic failures of its leadership. This failure results from their self-serving perpetual lawbreaking, their uninhibited criminality, and greed. Asked mastermind of this alarming corruption, the crimes of Kurdistan Prime Minister Masroor Barzani are more exposed than ever before to the United States Congress. The Biden administration is moving away from corrupt regimes operating with blatant hypocrisy and double standards. The United States will not sacrifice American treasure for Barzani's crooked greed. Barzani's many crimes, on a grand scale, are very well documented in this court case in Washington, and witnesses with a first-hand role are now assisting. Leaders in the United States are interested in building a bridge to the future, not to the past. President Biden has spoken very clearly about regime corruption, calling for the removal of all corrupt regimes. The level of corruption and dishonesty with the United States of America now being exposed in this case will have an impact with U.S. policy leaders. This case is exposing what really matters to the leaders of America's foreign policy. The attempts of the Barzani continuing criminal enterprise to minimize this case is a feeble attempt to distract the Kurdish population and the United States Congress from the criminal truth. As the case makes clear to the United States court, the Barzani regime owes its immense financial wealth to astounding deception and massive theft, with most of the theft being from the Kurdish people and from the United States government. This case, resulting from rigorous investigation, powerfully uses dozens of official reports and hundreds of actual documents of Barzani crimes now secured in a secret Washington, D.C. vault. This is the legacy of the Barzani regime. President Biden has stated, "Corruption corrodes public trust, hobbles effective governance, distorts markets and equitable access to services, undercuts development efforts, contributes to national fragility, extremism, and migration, and provides authoritarian leaders a means to undermine democracies worldwide. When leaders steal from their nation's citizens or oligarchs flout the rule of law, economic growth slows, inequality widens, and trust in government plummets. In financial terms alone, the costs of corruption are staggering. Corruption threatens United States national security, economic equity, global anti-poverty and development efforts, and democracy itself. My administration will make it increasingly difficult for corrupt actors to shield their activities and will hold accountable corrupt individuals, transnational criminal organizations, and their facilitators." The Kurdish Victims Fund is in sync with the White House. The enormous number of crimes being exposed in this case, including massive financial fraud perpetuated against the United States government, are all the fruits of corruption by the Barzani continuing criminal enterprise. Informed sources in Washington, D.C. tell the Kurdish Victims Fund that the longer such pervasive and murderous corruption continues in Kurdistan, and the longer this case lingers, the more endangered the bilateral relationship with the United States becomes. Question: does this case expose that the Barzani regime has betrayed the United States of America? Answer: yes, it does. In multiple ways. The case alleges many crimes which betrayed the allegiance the Barzanis owe the United States. This is especially true for Masroor Barzani, himself a United States person who has dishonestly sworn an oath to support the U.S. Constitution and the country's laws. Along with his family members, as a leader of the Barzani continuing criminal enterprise, he has violated and ignored hundreds of U.S. laws and continues to do so every day. The case alleges many documented heartless crimes against the United States and against humanity. These massive claims are alleged against the Kurdistan regional government and its principal officers for global crimes, including but not limited to atrocity crimes, indiscriminate violence, arson, murder, attempted murder, genocide, abduction, hostage-taking and kidnapping, torture and other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment, collaboration with terrorist organizations, prolonged arbitrary detention, extrajudicial killing, enforced disappearance, cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment, crimes against humanity, theft, drug trafficking, counterfeiting, defrauding the United States government and others, financial crimes, identify theft and access device fraud, mail fraud, wire fraud, laundering of monetary instruments, engaging in transactions with the proceeds of specified unlawful activity, acts involving perjury, false statements and declarations, comprehensive computer data theft and destruction, obstruction of justice, bribery and facilitation payments, deprivation of income and employment, willful concealment of tax data, tax fraud and tax perjury, immigration fraud and immigration perjury, violations of other laws and statutes of the United States and the law of nations and international treaties, agreements and conventions, and fraudulently gained control for personal enrichment over money that was property of the Kurdistan regional government. Also included in the case are hundreds of crimes committed against the interests of the United States of America using U.S.-provided intelligence, and the murder of a U.S. intelligence agent.